Welcome back to In the Mix from the Six. This is our 37th edition of our great podcast. As always, this is my guy, Adis Kuchkovic. I'm Jay Boyle. Even though sports perhaps aren't being played, we got so many things to discuss today.
Air
We're gonna
stories.
we're gonna kick off with breaking news from the NHL. We also got Alphonso Davies. Just literally also breaking news, was just named the Bundesliga Rookie of the Year. We got a lawsuit being filed by Dan Carcillo and others against the CHL, and NBA's got issues with their return to play protocol. And we're going to discuss Kyrie Irving, Dwight Howard planning not to play in the NBA's return, even though Kyrie's injured. And we'll get into all that and much more. War of words between Katie, Stephen A, Kendrick
Yeah.
Perkins. That's been like I'm watching TMZ, watching those guys go back and forth, man.
TMZ. Oh,
Uh,
I thought
It's
you
literally,
were watching it on TMZ.
no,
I was
it's
like,
literally like I'm watching TMZ, watching these guys go back and
I
forth
know,
with their war
especially
of
with
words.
Perkins, bro. Perkins is the guy's got the most television time out of any NBA analyst nowadays. That guy, they just put a camera in front of him, he's just gonna go off for bringing
He's
20
smart,
minutes.
man. Like this guy went from no disrespect, but being a well below average player to now being a monster in the NBA media circus.
Exactly. That's what I mean. If it was just his playing career, no one would be talking about Kendrick Perkins.
Yeah.
But
All right,
man chose the alternate route.
let's get to it. Breaking news just minutes before we started recording. Bob McKenzie, TSN insider, reported on Twitter that 3 Tampa Bay Lightning players and 2 staff members have tested positive for COVID-19. They have an outbreak at their training facility that's only been open for about 10 days. In phase 2, players have been allowed to skate 10 to 12 days. Now the facility is closed. Everybody's going to be retested, but maybe it'll go down from 5 to 4, but you got 4 or 5 positive cases here. Now this throws a big wrench into the NHL's return to play plans. Cases are skyrocketing in Florida, Arizona, even in Las Vegas. They're starting to go up, which everybody believes is going to be a hub city. NHL is going to announce their hub cities reportedly on Monday. At this point in time, do you think it's even feasible and safe for sports to come back? And we were at a point in time where we thought sports coming for sure, and now something like
Yeah.
this really puts it back into perspective.
I don't know. Did I think sports could come back? No problem, yes. But do I agree with like the state opening and just letting people just go back to their normal lives? No, and I feel like that's where the issues came from, especially a place like Florida, where as soon as they opened up, there was like a million people on the beach, all together, swimming together, just like it's almost like as if nothing's ever happened, as if this whole virus was like something fake.
Yeah.
And again, as you just said, the issues coming from Tampa in Florida, and NBA is planning on holding their whole season and playoffs in Orlando. So I feel like the issue really came from the state opening up the way that they did, because they've been recording like almost 3,000 new cases of the virus every day,
Yeah, I don't think
and
they
that's
released it.
all coming from them just opening everything up and acting like everything's normal, when it's
Not
not.
to cut you off, but
Yeah,
I don't think they've released numbers for today yet. But the last 2 days
last 2 days. Yeah,
were their 2 highest ever,
exactly.
and
And
this
that's
is when the
again,
curve supposedly has been flattened.
yeah. And I heard some of these UFC fighters even talking when they were in Florida. They're like, "Hey, I can go to a restaurant, sit down next to someone, waiter comes to you. It's literally as if this virus has never been a thing in Florida." And like that's where the issue is gonna come. If you want to have Orlando as your hub, as your bubble for the NBA, you can't be this careless with it. Because as soon as the NBA comes back, who's to say that those guys that are going to be working at Disney World and stuff don't have the virus and aren't going to contract it to other players? And once those players start to, you can't really have a season if a guy like LeBron James, Giannis, they're testing positive and they can't play, because then then there will be an asterisk against who wins, right?
Yeah, from what I've read, based off a lot of experts, the last 24 hours, they're all building and expecting Florida to become the next epicenter, as you
Yeah,
had in New York early on, where not only the city but the entire state was, had the army in the streets because they had to literally just lock people in their houses. So I think the
exactly.
NBA made a grave mistake here. You already discussed, very poetically about how the U.S. states made mistakes here, opening too early. But
Yeah,
Florida was always a high case state, and they chose to go there. I'm sure there was some dealings with Disneyland, and it's both profitable for both organizations. But to pick a place that
yeah,
was never really great situationally in terms of cases, that's what you get. And I understand maybe they didn't
Silly,
want to
yeah.
pick a place like Pennsylvania or Columbus because it's not a sexy place, but you could have gone to
Of course, yeah.
somewhere that had minimal, and Columbus, Ohio has virtually had no cases. But this is what you get when you want to go to a place like Florida and you want to be at Disneyland and have a big name behind your return to play plans.
Yeah, but I still think there is time to save it almost because the NBA players haven't gone there yet, right? I guess the only team that can really be in where is Miami or someone, or even any of the
Toronto's
closer
supposed
teams.
to be reporting there in a few days.
I know that's what I was just about to mention. Toronto's one of the first teams I see reported that they were heading there. So
Yeah,
before they head there, let's make sure we test everyone that's going to be at Disney World and make sure that they don't leave almost because if you're allowing them to leave and be careless, especially in Florida, they're gonna have a virus, and if they come near any of these players, they could contract to any of them. So you're setting yourself up for failure if you don't start now with this protocol. Literally now, whoever's going to Disney World should not be leaving.
yeah. So at the NBA perspective, they said they're going to penalize players who leave the bubble without proper consent.
Yeah,
But their issue also becomes players are upset with the lack of testing that's going to be done on employees of Disneyland who are there, right? They're not going to be
exactly. Right.
subject to the same testing the NBA players. Now, from the NHL perspective, where we started with today, their really own concern, they're not going to have a hub city in Florida. It's going to be Vegas. From what I've heard from people respected in the hockey community, as of about a week ago, was a lock Vegas and Columbus. Now
Yeah.
Toronto's cases started coming down, and for a lot of reasons, the NHL wants to go to Toronto. So really, what they have to do is just really quarantine the entire Tampa Bay Lightning team, and then when
Hmm.
they move to their hub city,
Exactly.
again, 14-day quarantine, keep them safe, and make sure there's no cases. So it's a little bit easier from the NHL perspective. The NBA, though, playing in that state,
That's
I'm
what I mean.
worried.
They're playing in like the Mecca. Yeah.
And I heard Bobby Webster,
Especially for these star players, man.
yeah, and I heard Bobby Webster, the Raptors GM, talking about it on the radio the other day. And he said, we are getting ready and making ghost rosters not only for injuries, but we're preparing for illnesses too, because as we've discussed, the NBA is not going to stop play if they return. If positive cases
Yeah.
occur, that player is out, plays continuing on. So
Exactly.
there has a potential to be, multiple cases on teams here. And what do you do if there's one or two cases on a team? Okay, you can manage it. But what do you do if there's an outbreak within a locker room? And
You
and
have
one
you
and one
have
on one
to
team, and out of
take
the
that whole team out.
out of a team's 8 to 10 player rotation in the playoffs, 4 or 5 guys are out.
Yeah.
That's detrimental.
Exactly. And unlike other sports, basketball is a sport that if you are missing your star, this is gonna change. Like this changes the game. Like you guys don't have a high chance of winning if you don't have a guy like Giannis on your team playing or able to play, or even a guy like LeBron or these other guys that could possibly get the virus and can't play. Because if that were to happen in any other sport, you could still mount up some way to build like a plan to win. In the
Yeah,
NBA, I'm sorry, Giannis is not playing. Milwaukee's not going anywhere.
yeah.
LeBron's
It's
not playing.
the
Lakers
NBA.
are kind of
The
screwed.
NBA is the most superstar-driven league in North
Exactly.
America in sports, right? Losing
Yeah.
one player is totally different than if you lose, Sidney Crosby on the Penguins. It's tough, but okay, everybody can step up. You have 4 lines of guys to
Exactly.
contribute. So just give me one sec here. But yeah, there's other ways to get around it for other sports, but the NBA is reaching a tipping point. So to get back
And
to
they're the ones that are planning on doing this in Florida. So like,
yeah, so to move on to other
like,
kind of return to play issues. The NHL's it's being reported the NHL wants to swap conferences. So if their hub cities are Vegas and Toronto, the Eastern Conference would play in Las Vegas, the Western Conference would play in Toronto. I'll give my opinions in a second, but what do you think of that plan? They're trying to avoid any sort of
that's
advantage for one single team.
that's so silly. The only advantage that I can feel from play like that's so like you're just making it way harder than it has to be. The only advantage comes from playing at home comes from the fans because if you talk to these players, the energy comes from the fans. They're giving you the energy. You're like, yo, I'm at home. I can't lose in front of them. There's no fans in the arena. What difference does it make whether you're playing in Vegas or you're playing in Toronto? You're just playing in an arena that has a hockey rink in it.
Yeah,
There's no advantage, and
I
it's not like
think
the players gonna be living at home. They're still
yeah
gonna
they'll be
be
in a hotel.
in a bubble. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I
So
think the
what
only
advantage is there?
possible advantage I could think of is that they get to stay in their dressing room and they get the best dressing room. 'Cause everybody else will be using visitors' dressing rooms, and we all know in pro sports there's a big discrepancy between a home dressing room and a visitor's dressing room. So,
Yeah,
okay, maybe the Leafs won't be happy having other teams using their dressing room, But rotate the dressing rooms then.
I know exactly. Like, why does it have to be so much harder? Now let's move all these teams to the east and let's put them all in Toronto. So now they have to also deal with a time change. I'm saying there's 3 hours behind. Same way if you do it the other way around. So like you're making it harder than it has to be. You know what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah, so like the Western teams coming to Toronto,
Yeah,
say Las Vegas fans that want to watch their games. It's gonna be screwed up, right? Like
exactly.
if the game's at I don't know, you want to make it so they can watch it at 7 p.m. there in Vegas, then the games are starting at 10 p.m. in Toronto, and players are nobody's used to starting a hockey game at 10 p.m. Like
Can you
it's
imagine people
absurd.
working too? They ain't staying up to watch these games.
Yeah, on the East Coast, right? So it
Exactly.
creates a whole lot of scheduling conflicts, and fans are not going to be able to watch their respective teams as easy as they should be. And what are you doing here? Why are you trying to generate money in your return to play? Is through TV deals and marketing and revenue.
Right.
And so if people can't watch it properly on TV, what's the
Exactly.
whole point of this?
That's what I'm saying. It's kind of ironic that they're trying to they're gonna make it harder for the fans to actually watch the team that they're cheering for play. When you're doing this all for the fans, you're not doing this for anyone else really. You're not doing it for the person not gonna watch the games. You're doing it for
Yeah,
the guys that are going
you're
to.
doing this for the
If
fans.
you're gonna make it
Or you're
harder,
doing it
then
for
you're
the
just
money.
setting yourself up for failure.
Uh,
Exactly.
all right,
Silly.
and
Stupid.
just to go back to the NBA, you've seen those rings that players are going to be worn. It's essentially like they're
Yeah.
wearing an ankle bracelet on probation here. It's going to
I know,
track
yeah.
their
House arrest.
whereabouts, and it's going to detect symptoms earlier.
Yep.
I think some of the technology that's coming out is fantastic here, and I think if the NBA is doing that, NHL, MLS, and all the other sports are probably going to find that technology as
They
well.
they should all be doing it. Yeah. That's so smart. That's literally gonna eliminate the problem. If you start seeing, I don't know, John Doe starts having a freaking some symptoms, isolate him as quickly as you can so that he doesn't contract it to any of
Or
the other players.
you can get him into a medical tent and provide the proper testing and see what's going
Exactly.
on. Uh, Now, the NBA is making a hotline for players to rat on other players who are
Or
not
not.
obtaining proper social distancing and the
Oh my
guidelines.
god.
Do you foresee in any situation where this gets out of hand?
What's that George?
I think it could get huge very quick, where
What
it's
is it?
just
What's that George Orwell fucking
oh that book we had
book?
to read in high school.
Yeah, it's like that now. It's literally gonna be everyone's watching LeBron. That's literally what it's gonna be. Everyone, as soon as LeBron tries to violate anything, he's getting freaking sent out
I
because
love
everyone's gonna snitch on him just so they can have an advantage immediately.
I love the memes I saw about this with it's you know everybody's talking about the hotline, and then you see a picture of Takashi 69 just smirking.
Yeah,
He's
calling
like, I'm
it.
coming.
Bro, he literally made snitching popular, bro, which is whack.
I don't know about popular. He put it in the mainstream media.
Bro,
People
all these
realize
younger
how
kids are
often it
gonna
goes
be
on.
talking about snitching. Watch, 100%. That's like the new thing
Yeah, and then
now.
they end up in FBI protection for the rest of their lives.
I don't care, bro. It's all about the clout nowadays.
Yeah, this guy can't even post a picture outside his house. He had to get relocated because somebody took a picture of this guy on his balcony and gave his address.
It's like that fucking Jay-Z line that everyone keeps quoting. He's in jail just without the bars.
Yeah, essentially. All right, I think we'll move on from here, shall we?
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Daniel Carcillo. It's a guy who I hated when he was in the league. He was the type of player that, you hated when your team played against him, but if he's on your team, they said you loved him. I think if he was on my team, I still would have hated him the way he played. This guy was grimy. He wasn't a Brad
Uh-oh.
Marchand. He was a piece of trash in the NHL. He is
Well,
not.
from what I'm hearing, you might not like him if you're on his team.
Yeah. So
We'll get
he is
into it now
he is
too.
he is backing a group of former players. They are initiating a class action lawsuit against the CHL. The CHL is claiming they have not been served any papers yet, and so they have not uttered a comment. They are going after the CHL for negligence, and this suit, as stated, is on behalf of children aged 15 to 17 who were sexually and physically assaulted, hazed, and otherwise abused while away from home and playing for CHL teams. You're not the big hockey guy. You're just going off of, the information you've gathered, the stuff you've read on the internet. What do you make of this before I give you my lowdown on
I was
my
gonna say,
beliefs?
I heard about this man yesterday. So what I know is what he wants me to know. So what I know is what he's told so far, right? So I don't really know anything about this guy, but just reading from these articles, even the second one where it was criticizing him a bit. To me, what I'm seeing here is growth. Like I know you probably won't agree with it, and you'll probably explain to me why I'm wrong here, but so they're explaining that this guy wanted his best friend died. He had some trauma
Yep.
issues, right? And then he goes into rehab, 60 days. And as he was saying, in those 60 days, he started writing a list of all the people he was wronging, right? And then trying to either meet them face to face or call them over the phone and apologize. Listen, people do fucked up shit in life. If that's the result, to me, you grew. You grew up and you realized what you're doing. And not only did you realize what you were doing, you're man enough to take action for it and actually try to like he was saying, these guys they can't the other guys that did it and won't admit that they did this shit, they can't stand there and look at themselves in the mirror. He, on the other hand, looked at himself in the mirror, saw the kind of person he was or that these other guys were thinking he was, and let me try to make even the smallest little gesture, it shows change in the person, right? So he called these people, apologized to them. So I'm telling you, most of them probably were like, "Yo, fuck you. I don't want to hear from you. I don't care about your apology. It means nothing at this point." I'm sure if it doesn't impact those 10, it will impact at least one. And at least one guy, I'm sure, from that list that he called, was like, you know what? This is what I needed. This is the kind of closure I needed. And like
See,
as much as because I've heard him explain to what he because he did and like what I liked, he went into the article, well, that interview, what he was doing,
yep.
and he literally said, listen, print that, anything you can find, whatever stories that these guys tell about me, put that out because I'm going to own it. Like I'm gonna tell me what I did wrong, I'll own it and I'll do my best. If because for most of these things you probably can't change things, you can't make things better. At the very least you can own it and be like, yeah, I was wrong. You know what? Like the shit that we
Okay.
used to do was fucked up.
So Daniel Carcillo is the one backing this lawsuit, making it
Yeah,
happen. He has been on a image recuperation tour, whatever you want to call it, for about a year and a half to 2 years now.
yeah,
Okay. And he claims he's a changed man. And he apologized to all these people. Yet in February of 2020, he doesn't do it to the same way, but he's back to his same antics, taking shots at people and taking issues with others for nothing to do with him. So Paul Bizanet, who's the former NHL player, was a grinder, and now
yeah,
is the host of the biggest hockey podcast in the world, Spit and Chicklets. So
yeah,
Paul Bizanet did a profile with the Globe and Mail, right? And then they talked about how this guy went from NHL grinder to now this super media superstar. And just before that, there's an instance on the show where Jeremy Roenick, a Hall of Fame caliber player, was on the show, and he made insensitive comments about wanting to have a threesome with a coworker. And not really the podcast took that much heat because they can't control what guests on the show say. But Jeremy Roenick took heat. He lost his NBC job. So after that article, sorry, my phone just overheated, so that's great. So after that article had come out,
yeah,
he takes a shot at Paul Bizanet and says, "Oh, just looking to this is purely damage control after the Roenick situation." Total unawareness from Dan Carcillo. This has nothing to do with the Roenick situation, and Globe and Mail have been trying to get Paul Bizanet to agree to that for a couple months, and he said, "You know what? It's a Canadian paper. I'm Canadian. Might be a fun
yeah,
thing to do." And it was nothing to even do about the podcast, like really Spit and Chicklets. It was just about him. And then Paul Bizanet brings up, he goes, "Dude, are you kidding me? You're still taking shots at me?" He's like, "You used to call me the N-word in the locker room in the minors every single day. You used to wear a swastika under your robe every single day until our captain came and talked some sense into you. That's what a player was. And he used to just shit on guys in the locker room and in the league." And then he
yeah,
goes back and says, "Oh, well, I apologize for those things and you accepted it." So he apologizes and Paul Beason accepts it. And now you can go and trash the guy again. This guy is not a changed guy. He's trying to appear that way to save his image and maybe have some second career somewhere. And so
mhm,
what? Just because you think that you should be given forgiveness, that nobody else should be given forgiveness, and now you're going after people for doing the same things that you did. So by his standard, if they come out and they own what all these guys own whatever they did, now it's
yeah.
over with and the lawsuit goes away, I guess, by his understanding. Like to me, he's not the guy that should be the face of this lawsuit for what he's done. And if you actually want to enact change, instead of going at the CHL for pitchforks and saying, oh, well, you're going after because the seniors did this stuff to rookies for hazing, well, guess what? Those seniors had it done to them, and it was a vicious cycle through hockey. Any hockey player who's played any serious level, no matter where in the country or in the United States, they've had their experience with hazing. So how about you go with the
Yeah.
CHL and you try and bring awareness to the issue and enact the new policies and grow that way instead of going with pitchforks to the CHL for something that was part of hockey culture for decades. Like there's other ways to go about this without trying to attack the people who gave you your career.
Okay, yeah, but listen, as much as he said, okay, it did give him his career, obviously, but from what I read in that article is it gave him a career, and what that led to was a lifetime of trauma, of probably being the
That's
bully, but being the bully
that
because you are just not
he
happy,
a lot of his trauma,
depression.
and I feel bad for him, but a lot of his trauma is
Yeah,
depression, as it happens with a lot of fighters in hockey, as can
yeah,
even boxers, right? He wasn't good
yeah,
enough to be a regular player, so he made the decision instead of pursuing education or another career. He made the decision that I'm going to be a grinder and I'm going to be a fighter.
yeah.
So
But listen,
you can't blame that all on the NHL. Now, could they have done
I'm not.
better medical tests back
Yeah,
then and better concussion awareness? 100%. But at the end of the day, it was still his decision to be a fighter
listen. I'm okay. Yeah, 'cause I'm not
because
putting
he
blame
wanted
on.
to stay
I'm
in
not
hockey, and
putting.
that was his only way
Yeah.
to have value to a
Hey,
team.
listen. When you're in a sport like that, especially hockey, football, boxing, MMA, any of those, you know the consequences. You're not blind to it. You're not like, oh, I had no idea this is what I was gonna turn out, right? You know it. But what I'm saying is, I'm not blaming the NHL either, because it's kind of hard
He's
to,
not even going after the NHL, and this stuff
yeah,
happened in the NHL.
or the
So
CHL.
why are you too scared to go after the big guys? You're
But
picking on the little guys here again as a bully.
as no, but okay. So as much as we know that, what's it called? Okay, the hazing has been going on as much. We've never talked about it, or it's never even been an issue that's been brought to light
It's
as much as it is now.
in the hockey community. Sure, now it's at another level because of this lawsuit.
Exactly.
But in the hockey community, it's something
So
that
isn't that
has been addressed. And trust me, the levels of hazing in hockey have depreciated immensely in the last 5 to 10 years.
100%? I know for a fact that's true, because I'm sure they did way more fucked up shit back in the day than they do now. But I'm just saying that if his goal was to bring light to this issue and bring attention to it, he succeeded. If his goal was something else and
His
just
his
to
goal
bring
is not
fame
to
to him,
bring light to this. Trust me. His goal
no,
is
no.
not to bring light to the issue. There's other ways to do that than without a lawsuit if you want to do that and have everybody work
Yeah,
together to have
but
a
as much,
solution. Just like what's going on with the Black Lives Matter movement. Forget the riots or the protests. People are trying to figure out other
yeah,
ways to come together and work together, and he could have done something similar to that extent.
he could have, but at least he took the first step as to actually try and do something. Because
You,
before this, I didn't even know that this shit was that big of a problem. So to a
well,
guy
yeah,
like
you're
me
not in
who's
the
not in
culture,
the
right?
hockey community or the culture, I don't even know that this is an issue. And again, how many kids were so traumatized from the shit that was going on that this just led to a life of, just depression and just of like
I,
regret
I may
of like,
sound insensitive here, but I don't
yeah,
think what players, I got to be careful how I word this, but I don't think
yeah.
what players dealt with in hazing in most cases led to a lifetime of trauma.
Listen, Jay, that what from what I have heard that some of these hazing things have been, this
Some.
is
Oh,
gee,
and
no,
okay,
no, no. That's what
obviously I'm
that's
saying there's
yeah.
some instances, but I'm saying the generosity or
No,
general
no, I'm not
hazing.
saying because of
There's
course not
a
because how
few more serious instances, but
yeah,
I will say there's no evidence. Nobody has corroborated his stories.
yeah.
It's just hearsay.
But
This person told me this.
I'm talking about the kid that didn't make it to the league, just was a player on that team that went through all this shit, and what does he really have to show for it? A scarred mind as to how his hockey life was when he was younger, you know?
He may have some dark memories from those days. He probably also has a lot of positive
A
memories
lot.
about
He
playing in
probably
the
also
OHL.
listen. You have positive memories until you get to that point. Once you get to that point, I'm sure there's a lot of dark things that he does not even want to remember. So he pushes a lot of it back in the back of his mind,
And
and that's what I'm talking for here.
now let's move past kind of Dan Carcillo and
Yeah,
that. And it's just
yeah,
another issue with the lawsuit, right? He's looking for players to sign up. That's how a class action lawsuit goes, right?
yeah.
Between ages of 15 and 17. I'm telling you, not many of players are going to sign this lawsuit because maybe they were hazed aggressively when they were a rookie, but they sure as well were a part of giving it back to rookies when they were senior players on that team.
Exactly.
It was
Yeah.
a cycle. That's why this lawsuit has no merit from Dan Carcillo's perspective, being the face of it, to the actual validity of the lawsuit. I don't see
Yeah.
how this can be successful, and that's why it's a waste of time. And another thing, the CHL is past the hazing days of that ferocity, okay? And it's a big foundation to the hockey community and the world in terms of developing players.
Yeah.
These teams do not make millions of dollars. A lot of teams don't make profit, barely break even, or make minimum profits. So if this becomes $1 million class action lawsuit, the league will suffer tremendously, and you could see teams folding.
Is it better for the league to suffer or for people to suffer?
Yeah, but we're past that now. Like, I can guarantee you, the extent that he's talking about that went on in the earlier
I'm
2000s,
sure it's not
he
going on
claimed
now.
2000 in 2008 is when he was
Yeah.
in the junior leagues. Is not going on now. So we can move past this
It
and work
could
to make
be.
sure. No, I'm sure there's maybe some small instances, but
Yeah.
again, the vast majority are not. So there's ways to work together
Yeah.
towards this doesn't happen, as opposed to costing the league millions of dollars who doesn't have the money to pay. And if they do pay that, well, they're gonna suffer. And then, a lot of kids are not gonna get that
Yeah.
opportunity to have those amazing memories as well. You got to look at the bigger
Here,
picture here too.
here's the thing though, because like I feel as much as it is bringing light to the issue, I also feel it's a lot of, hey, you guys who are so silent on this and acting like it's not existent, own up to it. Say that you've done this stuff. A lot of that too. Not of the lawsuit. Okay, it's a little stretch because it's like, okay, are you really gonna push to this point? Because it's not like something that's going on now. It was something that was going on years ago, right? So there's no point of penalizing the league that hard. But maybe it's there to penalize some of those, those guys who are maybe done with their NHL careers or in the NHL now and just they are the evil, but we don't know because
Yeah.
they won't own up to it.
Listen, David Branch, who's I believe his title is commissioner of the CHL.
Yeah.
Daniel Carcillo could have worked with him and made some sort of committee or a board that would investigate these situations, hand out punishment to teams who are currently allowing it to go on, or
Yeah.
players who are doing this. And what I'm saying is, there's other ways to go about it that are going to be more
There was,
meaningful.
yeah.
Because I'm telling you, this lawsuit is not going to do much, and if it does, it's going to be detrimental to junior hockey in Canada.
Well, hopefully it doesn't, because I know that there's millions of kids out there that this was like the best time of their life, right? So
Millions, yeah,
exactly.
and
So
that's what
hopefully it doesn't take that away from them.
yeah.
At the same time, you also want to take away the dark
No,
demons from these other kids,
I
right?
get that, but now he's made himself an enemy to the CHL when he could have been
Yeah.
an ally and worked with them, and now that chance has probably gone out the window, right?
Well,
Because
that's
now they're at war,
that's what I was gonna say. Is this issue about you or is it about
and
the
now
next generation, right?
the
So
CHL will never, because he's claiming they're negligent. Okay, now the CHL will never come out and admit to their faults or that they knew this was going on and they want to work towards it, because then they're admitting guilt and then they lose the lawsuit, right? So you can't even get that out of the league now, where that could have gone on if you had done this another way, and the league could have said,
yeah,
okay, we're addressing this issue that we know exists within our locker rooms. That will never happen now,
but
or at least
it's
for a
yeah,
long time.
and like to go on the other side of it, I could also see it become almost similar to like what the Me Too movement was, where of
Mhm.
course it brought a lot of good, right? But there's also cases where people are aiming at trying to destroy a person, right? And destroy their career and their future. And because this was such a big movement, so if this does grow to that big,
Yeah,
the league and some of these other players could be in trouble.
yeah. As I said, hazing was a part of the culture, and it's
Yeah,
widespread. So it casts its net so large, right? There's not just one person that's a fault here. So yeah, we'll see what shakes down. I
yeah.
don't think much is going to come of the lawsuit. If it does, we'll see how it pans out. The CHL could be in a lot of trouble here, man. Junior hockey in Canada could suffer a lot, and
Hopefully not.
we'll wrap up there. Moving on to the Canadian legend, young legend in the making, Alphonso Davies. This guy, since the Bundesliga has returned to play, has taken the soccer world and Canadian sport fans by storm here. So, as I said at the start of the show, he's just named earlier today the Rookie of the Year in the Bundesliga.
Which
He
is
ju-
crazy because Bundesliga is deep.
deep ass league, right? And this is a guy, he's only been there for but less than 16 months. And when he
Yeah,
went over, we didn't really know it was going to pan out. We thought he'd be a project. He'd maybe play a little bit, but he was going to be 2, 3 years away from being a rotation player. Now he's in the
yeah.
talks as being one of the best left backs in the world. Just won the Bundesliga title, and in his last game, in the championship game, was clocked. I don't know if you saw this, running 36.5 kilometers per hour and set the record for fastest speed recorded in the Bundesliga's history.
Wait, he ran the whole time, or the fuck
No, no,
just?
no. Like, so there was
Oh,
a
okay.
sprint that he clocked 36.5 kilometers per hour,
That's
which is the fastest
madness,
speed
bro.
ever recorded in the Bundesliga's history since they
Guy,
started. The last record was set in 2011. 9 years later, he's broken it. So now, when it comes to okay, I'll ask you this: what's been the biggest surprise for you with Alphonso Davies?
the impact that he's making in the Bundesliga, bro. Like the fact that this is a Canadian player. You know, the Bundesliga is so like they have
It's so
kids that
far out there
are
from us.
like from 2 years old. They're playing soccer. They're
Prodigies,
kicking a
either
soccer ball into a
prodigies,
net.
yeah,
Yeah, and the fact that this guy's name, what's it called? What was it, Rookie of the Year?
yeah.
Like that tells you everything, bro. Like he's outshined all these European players who've been playing since they were little babies, and this guy did that all from being coming from Canada. That's the biggest surprise because Canada hasn't really had a big soccer superstar, so this could bring a lot of attention to
No,
soccer in
like
Canada.
the last Canadian soccer player we had of any notoriety was I forget his first name, Hargraves.
Sinclair, no?
Well, no,
Oh,
for the
I was gonna
women's.
say that
Well,
female,
no,
yeah.
the women to men is not even a comparison. We have so many great women soccer players. The men's
Yeah,
side's always struggle, right? But we had this guy Hargraves who grew up in Alberta, but he didn't even play provincially for Alberta growing up because of the politics of Soccer Canada. They ended up representing England internationally, not Canada. So that's the history of Canadian men's soccer, right? Like
but
I
that's
don't
what
know
I'm saying. That's how it goes every time.
who's the
They're gonna
best
go rep.
the best male Canadian soccer player I can think of is Dwayne De Rosario, who like had very, very minimal, if any, success internationally, and always had to return to the MLS.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But that's what I like. If he's representing Canada, and a lot of these guys don't because their home country is not that big in soccer, right? Because we had even
uh,
like one of the biggest, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, is representing Sweden, where he's not even from there, right?
yeah, and you consider like the size of some of the countries, like Iceland made the
Yeah,
World Cup, right? And they have like less than 500,000 people in the country. We have 37 million, and we suck. And this
exactly.
guy's actually repping us.
And
Now,
now we got the
the
Bundesliga
discussion
Rookie of the Year.
the discussion I want to get into, and I saw some TSN guys discussing this as well, is we all
Yeah,
know what Steve Nash and then Vince Carter did for basketball in Canada, right? Steve Nash coming up through late 90s, early 2000s, coming out 2020. You have guys like, Jamal Murray, Shea Gilgeous Alexander, Andrew Wiggins, Kelly Olynyk, who are products of Vince Carter
exactly.
and Steve Nash. Do you think and foresee Alphonso Davies having the same impact on Canadian soccer?
I don't. I'm gonna say plain and simple. That effect happened in basketball because basketball is run by North America. You know, like it's either 90% is coming from America, the other percent is coming from Canada, and then so you got some international players, but
Yeah.
like they have to be exceptionally special to really make it to the NBA. Soccer, on the other hand, unless we get a few more, one guy is not going to change soccer in Canada. I don't feel like
Yeah, but Steve Nash did for basketball as one guy.
hmm? As one guy, yeah, but basketball is the type of sport where one guy can make an impact like that, right? Because as I was saying, all these players are coming from there. A guy goes over to Bundesliga is a rookie of the year. I don't think you're gonna see that maybe even ever again coming from Canada, because like again,
No,
it's the
but
unlikelihood
here's the
of that
thing.
happening.
Here's the comparison I'll make for you. So Steve
Yeah,
Nash, obviously the greatest Canadian player ever, and he
yeah,
escalated himself to heights that were tremendous, like two-time MVP, right, Hall of Famer.
hmm
I could confidently say we'd probably never have another, even though we could end up with 50, 60, 70 Canadians in the NBA, nobody will probably ever eclipse what Steve Nash did, right? Now, Alphonso Davies, on the other hand, this guy's already set Rookie of the Year,
yeah, but
and he's already being considered, one of the best left backs in the world with Jordi Alba, with Andrew Robertson, Marcelo. And if you're the best player in the world in your position in soccer, you're an international figure. You're playing in Champions League every year. You're winning Bundesliga championships. You're sponsored by Adidas and campaigned all over the world. And now what that creates is with soccer, for Canadians, there's really not a clear path to succeed. For a lot of Canadians, even speaking from cousins I have who excelled in the provincial program in BC, the goal is
Yeah.
always just I want to get a scholarship to
Go to
an
Europe.
NCAA school. But no,
Or
they don't even think about making it to Europe. It's let me get a
that's what
scholarship.
I was
No,
trying
but
to get
that hold
into.
on. It's let me get a scholarship to go NCAA and have my education paid for, and then maybe I could get to the MLS.
MLS.
But now Alphonso Davies has shown that there is a path to get to the top stages in the soccer world. And that's what Steve Nash did. He showed that there was a path to the NBA for Canadians, like Alphonso Davies has now shown for Canadians. And keep in mind, 2026, the World Cup is in Canada, USA, and Mexico. It's a good chance, whether we qualify or not, we'll be given a spot in the World Cup because we're the hosts. So now, if he's 19 right now, he'll be 25 in 2026 in the prime of his career, playing for
Yeah.
Canada at home in the World Cup. I think that could be so inspirational for people.
Okay. Okay. So in hindsight, yes, what Nash did for basketball, yeah, but he has to do that first for soccer. You know, he
Yeah,
did
for
rookie of the
sure.
year,
He's on the
but
trajectory. And that's what I'm saying. It's going to line up for me is you're going to see his real impact start to begin with that World Cup 2026. And then 15 years down the road from now, you might see what it's actually done.
maybe. But I still think the trend is gonna be guys who are like feel like they're exceptionally well in soccer here in Canada are either gonna, like you said, go to the NCAA, or I think the better route, go to Europe, move, go play on a team there because
You're young.
it's
Yeah, that's
it's not
fine. That's
that
fine.
big here, right? No, but I
Davies
think
went there when
that's what
he was
that's gonna be the trend.
17, 18.
Yeah, but thank God for Davies is still gonna represent Canada. How many
No,
other
but
guys
here's
gonna
the
be like,
thing.
you know, I've lived there?
If you start seeing say three more guys in the next 10 years, then five, six, seven, and they see just like Canada basketball, everybody's did commit to the Olympic
Yeah,
qualifying for this summer, and in past years they hadn't, and they see, oh, we can actually form a good team with Canada. That's what it's
yeah,
going to be about, and I think that's the impact Davies can have.
it's a good start. It's a good start to have, but
And you know
there's got to be
what?
more.
You know what? He's a funny cat. He's very personable.
I've
He's
seen
great
his
with
stuff.
the
Yeah,
media. He's great with the media. His reaction
yeah,
for anybody watching here, search up his reaction when he was told that he set the speed record. It was just hilarious. He's just a kid living life, right? He's on cloud
exactly.
nine, and I think it's gonna be
Yeah,
great. And especially with the circumstance now, there's so much spotlight on him. Like I'm watching TSN Sports Center talking about the Bundesliga. I've never seen that before.
I was gonna say, hopefully it does that for Canada because Canada is so diverse. It has people from all around the world, and it's not the biggest, but soccer's big here, you know.
Yeah.
And like
Well, here's
there's a
the
lot of
thing.
kids growing up from
Youth soccer. Like I don't know
yeah,
about you,
yeah,
I played soccer when I was 5 years old and again when I was 9. Most people, you know,
same
everybody
here,
played
yeah,
soccer growing up, but again, it's you don't see anything past playing just youth soccer for fun in the summer. You don't see that there's actually a route to do something more with soccer like there is with hockey and basketball
yeah.
in this country. So that could start to change now when kids are playing soccer and say they're 11, 12 and they're thinking, okay, which sport should I specialize in? Now they might have the thought process of, oh, I can go be Alphonso Davies. He's gonna inspire these kids, and I think you will see that impact. Because
100%.
I don't think he's gonna fall off, man. This guy went from being a midfielder and a striker, never played left back before in his life. Gets to Bayern, they make him a left back, and just the way this guy jumps up in the play, controls the pace, it's
Yeah.
mind-boggling that somebody can just pick up a position that quick and run with it.
But the real difference going to be made is what impact can he have for Canada? Like when he does play for us,
Yeah.
internationally. Well, if you make an impact there, I'm telling you, Canada will probably be huge on soccer
Well,
in the
that's
next
why
few
I'm
years.
saying that World Cup 2026 and the qualifying leading up to it, I think is going to garner a lot of attention. Now, the question for me is, we know what he's done at left back here, but we also saw what he did in the midfield and playing more forward in the MLS.
Yeah,
Canada's a country that doesn't have a lot of goal scorers. Where does he play?
exactly. Hmm?
Where do you play him? Does you keep him at left back or do you move him up to score goals because we need goals? Or because here's the problem I see. He can't play left back with Team Canada the way he plays left back for Bayern.
Exactly. I
The
was
way
gonna
he
say it's completely different.
the
Bayern and Canada aren't even the
yeah,
same
the way
wavelength.
he jumps up in the play and he's leading the rush because he knows he's got other great superior players to cover him and he can
Yeah.
get back. That's not gonna be there for Team Canada. You're not gonna have the same quality to cover you.
I was gonna say even midfielder, like who's gonna be finishing then? If you have him at midfielder, who's gonna be finishing the goals off? Not that much.
I'm
I
telling
think you have to play him at forward.
The only other guy, no, I think you need him at midfield to kind of dictate the play because he can jump off the midfield easier than he does from left back.
Maybe switch him back and forth, but if you keep him at midfield, I feel like what that's gonna do is just make these games a bit more even. But Canada winning, I don't know about that because he's still
Well,
gonna be scoring
they
goals.
they do have a couple scoring options. Guy Kyle Larin and Jonathan Osorio can contribute. Now I know
But
Osorio
are
is obviously a
they?
TFC
Yeah,
player, but I
exactly.
think with Davies playing with them, I think it could
Yeah,
work out. If you put him at striker, remember somebody's got to get him the ball.
it's true.
Right? At
That's what I'm saying.
midfield,
You might have to switch him with midfield and striker.
at midfield, he can go back, help the defensive
Yeah,
line, get the ball, and then bring it up and contribute to the offense. I think that's where they're gonna have to play him. But maybe he's gonna say, "I feel more
maybe.
comfortable at left back now." So we'll have to
But
see
that's the
where
thing,
it
though.
goes.
You're taking the guy who's one of the best in his position out of his position. Is that the right move?
Well, we'll see come 2026 and leading up to that because that's years from now, and Bayern could end up moving him to midfield as other guys get older, or as Lewandowski, passes over the
Exactly.
cliff, and Muller and those folks, he could end up moving more forward. But right
Yeah,
now, left back seems like it's a great
his
position
position.
for him, and we'll see what Mr. Herdman, the Canada men's coach, former women's coach, decides to do. I'm sure Davies will be heavily involved in that decision, and you might end up seeing him play different positions every game because Canada needs all the help they can get.
He could. Hey, anyone could. He could.
All right. We'll wrap up there on Mr. Davies. He's going to be a treat to watch for years to come. All right. Kyrie Irving is a man who has been in the media a lot the last 5, 6 days. Obviously, we haven't recorded. It's the first we're discussing about it. And it's
Yeah.
gone from Kyrie Irving to Dwight Howard to Kendrick Perkins to Stephen A.
Mm,
Smith to
Lou
Kevin Durant.
Williams a little too.
Yeah, Lou Williams. Patrick Beverly's shared his thoughts. Excuse me. So
It was funny.
Kyrie Irving has proposed. He organized the call. This is what we know as facts.
Yep.
Kyrie Irving got on a call with 80 NBA and WNBA players and
Yep.
said the NBA players should not return to play because that would take the spotlight away from the Black Lives Matter movement that's really, garnered a lot of attention and a lot of heat
Mhm.
momentum moving forward right now. Dwight Howard has come out and backed Kyrie Irving. LeBron James was not on that call. What we don't know as fact is the report that he claimed in a group chat that players should start their own league. That has been denied by Nets players. But what is fact is that Kyrie Irving left that group chat after the report. So where the heck do we even start here? What I'll pose to you is, do you think Kyrie Irving is making the right decision in
Listen,
his suggestion not to return to play?
listen. His heart, 100% is in the right place, right? I know that perfect because he's one of those that are impacted by what's going on in America and in the world right now. Here's my issue with it. So if you are so he is one of the few players. I'm sure that he's probably one of the only players on that call that maybe KD was there too, but that's not going to. It's not
Regardless, he's not going to play. Yeah,
exactly. The NBA comes back, Kyrie's still not going to Orlando because he's not playing, right?
he's injured. Yeah.
So and but I understand that he holds like stature over these, not stature, but he holds like opinion over these
He's
guys,
the
right?
vice president of the NBA Players Association. Now, not to
Exactly.
interrupt you, before we go back to
Yeah.
you, I just want to say when that vote went down for the return to play protocols, he was in favor of returning to play. I'll
Yeah.
let you
This
continue.
is that's what I want to get into. So he sees it like he sees that he's like, let's play, right? Like we sat out. All these guys want to play. Everyone wants to go back. But now, what's going on in the world causes you to call these players, being the one that's not going to, doesn't really have a choice on coming back, and telling these guys that he doesn't think it's right to come back. And if he kept it at that, fine. All this other stuff I'm hearing is it's slowly, and I don't want to say it, but it's slowly starting to seem like instead of the the spotlight being on what's going on in the world and Black Lives Matter movement and all that stuff, it's uh what's going on with the other NBA players and Kyrie. And
Yeah,
what he
100%.
doesn't want, is kind of what he's causing. I don't. It sounds bad, but I don't want to say it in a too negative way. But he's kind of putting all the attention on himself, and this is what I saw Kendrick Perkins say a little bit, where instead of talking about
And
what's going
Stephen A.
on, we're talking
Stephen
about
A.
what
Smith
Kyrie's
said the
doing.
exact same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I feel if the players come back to play, you can put the spotlight is on the NBA. Listen, NBA comes back, spotlight is on them. Everyone's watching. If you not dedicate, but if you just put all your time and effort into basketball and to put the spotlight on this matter, because Adam Silver did come out saying they would not prevent any player from trying to do anything to put attention to the matter. That's exactly what we need. We need this to be in the spotlight, to be the attention. If you sit out and don't play, you're kind of doing what people want you to do and staying silent and not talking about it. If you go on to TV every day and you're talking about this issue, those stupid racists that just hate this Black Lives Matter movement and all that stuff, those guys are gonna probably not watch basketball because they're gonna be like, I hate this shit, because that's just how they think. So now let's exclude them and let's put the attention to this issue and to basketball. Like, of course, people are there to watch basketball, but now after the basketball games, they can be learning more about it. Before the games, they can be learning more about it. I don't
Yep.
see how not returning to play helps this issue.
Yeah, just to build on what you said there, because I agree with everything that came out of your mouth. Every pregame interview, every postgame press conference, sit-down interviews with Rachel Nichols, all those opportunities you can use to bring light to the issue that as you want to discuss and how you want to address it. All those opportunities don't exist if you're not returning to play to basketball. So
Exactly.
what Kyrie's doing, as you said, heart's in the right place. But my issue, what I've said to you when all of this started, the protests, the social media, everything people are doing, great. But how much does that actually do? Does anybody actually have a plan to enact change? And I don't think Kyrie Irving actually has a plan beyond let's not play. Like, if you proposed a proper outline to people and with a plan of action, how are we going to create action and make this world a better place? Maybe you wouldn't have got the backlash you've received the last 5 days from everybody on planet Earth.
Yeah. And listen, the guy who I've seen do something to really make a change in black communities and these more impoverished communities is the guy that wasn't on the call. LeBron James did that with those scholarships for Cleveland, those students.
Built a school that he's funded himself.
And he's trying to build the next generation to actually be those that are making the rules and making what's going on in society, right? That's something that you're doing to create change, because now you can make these young kids into leaders in the future. And that's where you're going to see real change come in. You don't see change coming in from staying silent or just just social media stuff. That's trend, and it's going to go away eventually.
Exactly. You got to do stuff that actually matters and lasts and is going to actually be here for years to come. Now, I don't love Kyrie Irving. I'll be point blank. I'm not a fan of his personally. He's a great player in that respect, but personally, for what he does, I don't like him. To me, he went over Chris Paul's head, who was the president of the Players Association.
Yeah.
Went over Michelle Roberts, who's executive director of the NBA Players Association as well. To me, this is a guy who, since he left Cleveland, has garnered, he's attention hungry, power hungry, and is just seeking the spotlight. He doesn't think things through and just goes with whatever gut reaction he has. And often it has done him more harm than good.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Since he's left Cleveland, how many conversations have you had about Kyrie in so many different facets, right?
Since he started on Brooklyn, I've discussed Kyrie without
even in Boston.
Even playing. Exactly.
Yeah. And it's just, again, some guys are like this, and I think, again, heart's in the right place, but he hasn't thought anything through, just like when he left Cleveland and he thought he could run the Boston Celtics. And then, less than a season in, he calls LeBron and apologizes and says, I was wrong. And again, we're heading down the same path where he just gut instinct goes to something without thinking it through. And then come a few months later or a year later, you'll probably call LeBron and say, again, I'm wrong for going against you, and you weren't even on this phone call, and I should have asked your opinions. And let's be real, as Patrick Beverley said, ballers, LeBron wants to play, so we're playing.
And like, if you want to go social issues, LeBron also has
exactly. You may think that's harsh, that like LeBron doesn't care, but it's totally opposite. LeBron said he's confident that he can continue, fighting for people's rights while playing, as he's done his entire career.
Exactly.
Starting uninterrupted, athletes we're more than just basketball. Don't shut up and dribble. All of that is LeBron James. Not one NBA player or athlete in the world has done enough for the people as much as
You
LeBron
hold
James.
you hold the power when the spotlight is on you. That's what LeBron sees here. If we sit in the dark, because let's say all the players agreed that not to come back. Once July 30th hits, no one's gonna hear anything. No one's gonna care about what these players have to say, right? Because the season's done. It's not starting. It's not happening. Okay, so you guys want to come out and do your
And their only
public
way to
stuff
reach
now?
us
It's
is through
not.
social media.
Exactly.
Instead of actually speaking to the cameras and having interaction with fans and
Seeing it, yeah.
interviews. Yeah. So that's what I gotta say in Kyrie Irving. I mean, heart's in the right place, but he's in the wrong here. And hey,
It
I
said
don't
a
know.
lot to me when I found out that LeBron wasn't on that call, because as much okay, so you got Chris Paul as the president of the Players
He
Association.
wasn't on that call.
He's
I
a
don't think either.
huh?
He wasn't on that
Uh,
call either.
Even worse. But I'm just saying, all these
He,
other
he
guys,
did that. He did that
Ducata,
call without Chris Paul knowing or Michelle Roberts.
he was
Again,
all
power hungry. He's going over his
exactly.
superiors' heads.
That's what I'm saying. And like LeBron, I'm sorry, LeBron's the face of the freaking league. Like if you're trying to do anything with the league, LeBron's got to be involved. And if he's not, it speaks something
Well,
into
he
what's
holds the
trying to be
power.
done.
So if you get LeBron on the same page as you, it speaks a lot more volumes than just Kyrie Irving trying to do something, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, yeah, I think that's all I had to say. Find Kendrick Perkins' comments. Guy makes me laugh because he just goes at people, and he held back too. I think he could have gone a lot more savage.
Unfiltered, yeah.
Now,
But you see
before
what he said
bef-
with KD? When KD called him a sellout?
yeah, he went off on KD, didn't he? I didn't see what he said.
And he was
Can you
saying, he was
paraphrase it
like,
for us?
yeah, he was basically saying, he's like, how are you gonna call me a sellout when like like it's almost like they've dealt with, because they've played together on the same team. They've dealt with issues and they've dealt with it in a way that it was sit down, let's deal with it until it's solved, and then we'll go away from it. But going away from it from the get go doesn't solve anything. It kind of just leaves the issue there and just revisit it whenever you can.
Yeah.
And that's where I was like, okay, he has a point there.
And just another facet that Kyrie and even Dwight Howard, who's backing him, have to realize. Ed
Yeah,
Davis spoke to it the best. Kyrie and Dwight Howard have made millions upon millions in their career. Guys like Ed Davis or Terrence Davis the third on the Toronto, they have it and they got bills to play and they're probably living more check
exactly.
to check. Not like the regular average Joe like you and me, but and if you have money, you can actually
Almost
enact change in the communities as LeBron James has. So if
exactly.
those players don't get paid, they can't do as much. And people say, "Oh, it's not all about money," but quite frankly, it is a lot about money. Which money makes the world go round, and you can do a lot of things with money that you can't without it.
The most powerful person has the most money. It's just how it is in the society. Like
Yeah,
whoever's richest kind of holds the most power.
if you can pay for it, you got it.
Exactly. And but like as you want to say, like they're not living check to check like you and me are. But people don't realize when you're making money like that, you're
You're
spending
spending
money
it.
like that.
So
So
they're
these
still
guys, some
living
of them
check.
are. They gotta get a check.
Yeah, they're
It's like
living
fuck.
check to
I have
check,
to pay.
just bigger checks than us.
Exactly. Yeah. Bigger debt than us too. So
Yeah. All right, buddy. I think that's about it for this episode. What do you think?
I think we covered everything that's going on in the non-sports world.
Are you popping pills right now?
Popping pills.
What were you just doing?
I'm drinking iced coffee.
Oh, it looked like a container or something.
Bro,
Dude, listen,
what?
I've been out in this 33-degree sun, probably with humidity like 35,
You
40.
tripping, bro.
It's wearing on me. My eyes are playing tricks. So I think with that being said, we should wrap it up. I should get in the AC behind me.
Yeah,
And
man, go
for
inside.
Adis Kuchkovic, I'm Jay Boyle. We're out of the mix. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.